So before you start, yes, sir. Okay. Hey, so we're just for the world. Just set up there, okay? Jack Orange. Get over here. Is that who the podium is? Yes. You know. Oh, yeah. With those for sure. Now you just hold it. I was like, told you move back and other. When this is I know what's yeah. So you can use that as well. That's also so hard. Changing this makes the soul of people and the use of people. And it's going to be opposite of the show to be serving with the same life. Very basic. We acknowledge that the land upon which the land upon which they were gathered is the traditional territory of the Adelumra, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements such as the dish of burnt sword between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The Treaty Rao Wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. The First Nation needs and people live and work in Fort Huron. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. And I also want to add to the President Foundation Innovation Series, both of what's next is still in the future and the manufacturing sector. Those who go around and go next and to see what the next innovation is. And so glad you joined us today. This is part of our Niche Innovation Series. We're so incredibly proud of. Niche, which stands for Another Innovation Cluster Helping Entrepreneurs, is part of the Innovation Hub with the job with partners, specifically referral. Again, to the for budget for mainly a business. But with this innovation, our growth is consensus to deliver teaching programming, mentorship, coaching, and career opportunities designed specifically to serve high-risk entrepreneurs and economic sectors. Tourism, agriculture, healthcare, and of course, manufacturing, which are the same today. We know that to bring these key sectors are going to make a real difference. We're often at the moment going to start with have to go and keep it together. Builders, functional entrepreneurs, experts, industry veterans, and new operators and communities into this service. And that's like that, especially in this stage of election. The firm is nice. Controlling this and to generate new possibilities. Every factor in particular, both features and as economy and identity. It's also very change. It's so nice. Advanced technologies, introducing this out into this region. The future of the thousand years of history, regardless of regional growth. In some cases, that's nice. Put together and the sales purpose were benefited from the effective results in aggregates. The other is the contribution of technologies were strong to global trade measures. When we work together with destinations, we accelerate benefits. So that's mindset has a responsibility for such an area and getting kind of where we're talking. And to second part, we also embrace innovation. So that's the top advanced technologies. In fact, players like global solutions that are happening right here in our backyard. All these inventions are pretty with the independence and the business of manufacturing and labor and beyond. There's huge jobs and this change as an opportunity versus fight. There's an controversial solutions to the cross-functional community on the next generation solutions and consumer and labor manufacturing a Canadian and a global leader. At this time, I'd like to call on Councilor Patel, representing the American Companies for the City of Niagara Falls. Councilor Patel.
Thank you, Dean. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to be here with all of you today. I want to give shout out to Ben Bailey, CEO for she helped visit some of food, but Ben did an amazing job who makes us come out amazing. Not very easy. And then your passion for startups and innovation is very inspiring. So thank you for everything you do. And we have a I am officially working the one who is studying beautiful down in a student with the so I don't think we're going to forget one person also so thank you for the project. I also represent Ministry Fidelity, Company the Festival. You believe here with us today from some message. It's not some message, but what happens in your thought, it matters. What is created, what is innovative, there's an affection with us will be making a difference and pushing from hearing. To thank you, Mr. Fidelity, for being here with us today. Manufacturing is a major part of Niagara's economy. It provides almost 70,000 jobs in Niagara Falls. For many of us, it's personal because of football team and it makes the house families thrive. Even though that's both among the manufacturing is key backbone of the economy that provides stability and security. Overall, happy in Niagara Falls. I'm sorry, I keep on for you stuff for the Niagara Falls, but it's about the navigation, sorry. Happy navigation. We are showing core, very four members of the United States, and we are actually very strategically located for transportation corridor, where it's with waterway, roadway, and hopefully by air, very soon. That's why contact emails and geocomputers who bring us in our region. It's almost unrecognized that Nigerians are more affordable to manufacture here. That was a study for 150 million. 7 for cheapest manufacturing, affordable manufacturing, and we are 28% lower cost
compared to process and trade locations in other particular competitive cities. But that's something we need to take into account and we need to be part of it and we need to advertise that and we need to support that outside of our region. We are big contributing technology proportion to this event. These tours This partnership is an initiative that focuses on supporting various top sectors, healthcare, agriculture, tourism, and manufacturing industries focus. And that is, today's event is funded by the Norfolk Innovation Hub, another economic development funds, and by the Government of Ontario. So thanks to everyone for creating an event like this where new businesses and innovators will come together and they can share ideas and they can help each other and they can lift each other up. So thank you very much to everybody who supported this event. Well, I would like to say something more about our region. The innovation runs deep in our region. We are home to pioneers like the Spitzer, Edinburgh Hydroelectric Generating Station, a cornerstone of clean energy in Ontario. And we are proud to be that we have a local family and businesses like ES Fox, founded and based right now. They are now leading the construction of North America's first of its kind small modular reactor in Burlington. Nuclear is not just clean energy. Nuclear is innovation at its finest. I'd also like to recognize Syntec, Airbus and Helicopters, United Industrial Association, and many other manufacturers and innovators who continue to support job creation and invest in the community and help cut Niagara and economic map. Thank you all for being here today. It's truly wonderful to see so many familiar faces and celebrate with you bright and innovative future we are all building together. So thank you very much for everybody being here.
Thank you so much, Councilor. Sorry, my bad. I looked at my extreme pushing is supposed to make a school line process. It's basically move right up.
Thank you very much, Dan. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, look at Wayne Gates is in the room. So when you hear Wayne Gates and when he says good afternoon, you're supposed to respond. So let's do it once more, and not only so the reaction care. Great. It's live here as the California meetings from the town council and supported. And Mr. Victor here seems quite a bit more than I think he used to. Looking forward to spend more time here as we mysteries, young architectures, and continuing to recommend your nicely. Assuming the systems welcome this evening. I then will bring the economic development team, Carolee Brennett, her assistants, Deanna and Danielle. We've also got Claire, who's here, and she does some of our community outreach. So we have a lot of extremely high-profile manufacturers in Florida. Some of them have global reputations. They've all been very successful, and a lot of it has to do with the help that they get from the provincial government, the federal government, the regional government, the local government, and they're committed to putting out fantastic products. None of them are importers, most of them are exporters, and these are, of course, very fraught times for anybody who exports to the United States or has to import. We're persevering, and I know which has some great programs, they're going to succeed. And as we're looking through this, I want to thank all of you in this room who are part of the Niagara Falls Innovation Group and the Industrial Association, because these are opportunities for you to grow and succeed and become part of the great story in Niagara. So thank you all of you, and the minister. Look forward to seeing you again and again and again.
Hopefully, because we're talking before words. Let's look at the children modeling and improvement with economic development team led by George and Marco. They were funders and partners of our entire Reach Innovation series and have been generous supporters of today's event. So please have to welcome George and Marco. Thank you very much for that very kind and necessary brief introduction today. I'm delighted to be with all of you. It's a pleasure to be here today at Abatement Technologies, a company that clearly exemplifies the innovation and excellence driving Niagara's manufacturing sector. And I'm here with other regional councils who want me to recognize them. Regional Council Wayne Redicott, as well as the mayor of Regional Council Matt Cisco, who is the mayor of the city of St. Catharines, and Regional Councilor Tom Insidla. And of course, references are made to the regional staff as well who are here today. And it's again really a pleasure to all of you take part in some of the discussions that we've taken part. And I see a mustache in the audience as well. And they wearing an orange coat, so this is here. And I know the rest of the mentioning or would be in trouble. Now we're is on the cornerstone of Niagara's economy, which is making thousands of significantly to our growth. But it sets an outlook for the to emulate. Reduce robotics and automation to sustainable production methods, local manufacturers not only meeting today's demands, but also shaping the future of the industry. A strategic location, skilled workforce, and strong partnerships have positioned Niagara as a leader in manufacturing across North America. As the industry continues to evolve, Niagara remains at the forefront, embracing new technologies and sustainable practices to stay competitive on the global stage. And you've seen some of the examples of that here on this platform today, as you look out at the various industries and businesses that are represented. And this again is very possible through the collaboration of the Niagara Falls Innovation Hub, Niagara Region Economic Development, City of Niagara Falls Economic Development, the town of Portland, with Ontario's Regional Economic Development Fund. This initiative, part of the Niche Series, supports the growth of Niagara's key sectors, including manufacturing, healthcare, agriculture, and tourism. The Niche Series provides essential programming, functional leadership, and networking opportunities for all of Niagara's entrepreneurs. I'd like to acknowledge Minister Fidelli, whose support continues to be crucial for the growth of Ontario's manufacturing sector. His commitment to ensure that Niagara has the resources and partnership needed to thrive in an increasingly globalized economy. I'd like to thank Abatement Technologies for hosting us today and their ongoing contribution to Niagara's manufacturing success. I'm excited for the meaningful discussions that will take place in the collaborations that will emerge from this event. And I was pleased to be here for the groundbreaking, which is always nice, but the ribbon cutting and now this particular event really demonstrates what Abatement Technology means for all of us here in Niagara and our province of Ontario. So together we're shaping the future of Niagara's manufacturing sector. I look forward to the continued achieve in the years ahead. And now it's my pleasure to introduce to the stage the Honorable Rick Fidelli, Ontario's Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, and the person that Premier Ford referred to as the world champion for not only Ontario but for Canada. And I know that from knowing Rick personally that he's indeed a champion for all of us. So I'd like to introduce him to share his remarks, Minister Fidelli, and for their leadership and continued support for Ontario's manufacturing sector. And now, drum roll, Rick Fidelli. Thank you for the function.
Well, I'm going to use this thing. Somebody brought a robot here. Somebody
Do you know thing? If somebody brought us robots, the least they can do is actually use it. I don't know. Is this how it's supposed to? Is this how it's supposed to go? Is that true?
Let me hear it. Good.
You're gonna do something to it? But I didn't break.
That's good.
What is it?
We'll sit there and sit up. Keep this around. Go to the dishes over there.
Yeah. Okay, alright, sorry about that. I just reading the notes shows. Technology, we're not friends today. Well, first of all, I want to thank Andrew, from Upheaval Technology. This is a real success story. As Jim said, as Chair Bradley said, we were here for the groundbreaking, we were here for a little bit of the construction, but it's not just about a building. It's the people who are in it, it's the products that they're producing that are life-saving products. It's the technology that's developed here in Ontario, and it's the 3 generations of Andrew's family that are here. So congratulations! Oh, there you are. Congratulations, Andrew, and you, and your father, we saw earlier, and your entire family for the wonderful success you've achieved personally and for all of your employees and globally. Congratulations. My great words. Really fascinating to hear the things and your perception of what's happening. So wonderfully done. Chair Bradley, congratulations. There's been a real success in this region, and it comes from the leadership yourself, the mayors, the 3 mayors who are here, who've been acknowledged. It's a tremendous difference that we see in Niagara. And you talk about my mustache friend, Wayne. While Wayne and I were colleagues, I would say we're friends. We've been sitting in the legislature together for several years. We sat many years with Jim, and the dean of the legislature. But we may sit on opposite sides. We share a passion for all the people in Niagara and helping everybody here, all the people in Ontario for that matter. So I want to say thank you for your continued work as well. And Dan, I have to tell you, it was amazing to tour each of these companies and see the products that are made here and do a brief round table and begin to understand the breadth and depth of what you make here in the Niagara region, specifically here in Port Erie as well. Just absolutely, anywhere we go in the world, we always say we make planes, trains, and automobiles. Well, in this region, you make a tremendous amount of the components for those planes, trains, and automobiles. And in the case of planes, you make rubber helicopters. So that's pretty amazing breadth and depth from a product that takes your state away to a product that can take your away. It's amazing the variety. So all of this, quite frankly, has come under threat with President Trump and his tariffs, and we all need to fight hard. We really do need to work. It's easy to say we need to work together, but if there's ever a time in our life where we need to come together and really look for solutions, it's now. I know that Premier Ford and Prime Minister Carney are working very well together towards solutions. We hope in the next few days that they do come to some conclusion with President Trump over the tariffs. We've seen here in Ontario the fact that we've put together in the last budget $30 billion. Much like the COVID fund, we put together $30 billion to help businesses and families make sure that they can work through the tariffs, make sure that nobody's left behind throughout these tariffs as well, that companies like Abatement succeed, employees all through, whether it's the steel sector, the aluminum sector, and every sector for that matter, that we're there to support them. The Food Board's been very active in looking for alternative products to reshore or to onshore, so that these companies, if they can't make product X that they're making today, they can make product Y and product Z. So we're working very, very hard throughout Ontario, looking for alternate products. And ultimately, it's hard to say this because there are people losing jobs today, but ultimately, I think we're going to come out even higher. I think while our relationship with the United States may never be the same, I said earlier today, it's like a bad breakup and you get back together again. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It might be a little cold shoulder every once in a while with each other. But the business is, we've got generations, hundreds of years of work together. It can't be wiped away by one guy. But I think we'll come together in the end. But it may take some time. Nonetheless, we've been working around the world, bringing new businesses here. I just quite a couple of stats, not the mean anything at the end of the day, but in the last 2 years, there's 184 companies from around the world landed here in Ontario and invested $30 billion and hired 18,000 people. That's just a reality. People are saying, well, we can't rely on the states, that we better start looking around the world. Yeah, that's what we've been doing, and I think it's been pretty successful. And when we come out of this, back to, some semblance with the states, we've also got all that we've added. So I think we're going to become even stronger. And a big part of it, we'll say thank you to Donald Trump for finally getting us off our butts and getting interprovincial trade done. I mean, right into the crucial example, in Ontario passed in the legislature unanimously. So one thing we agreed on for sure was that we are letting out interprovincial trade in Ontario. You can imagine that it's easier to ship a product from Ontario to Texas than it is from Missouri to BC. It should never be like that. Interprovincial trade means things like, at one time, to drive a truck, a transport trailer from coast to coast, there's different tire pressures in some provinces. There's different contents of your first aid kit in some provinces. That's just ridiculous. So in Ontario, Premier Ford said, we're wiping away our exceptions. And by that, I don't think they want to talk, but it's just a couple of little fun facts. When we all provinces and territories, 13 of us plus the federal government, got together and signed Canada Free Trade Agreement. It was great. Here it is. It's signed. But we just want this little bit taken out, and maybe that line taken out, and they don't like that. So all the provinces had these exceptions. It's great, except we want this change. So in Quebec, they have 39 exceptions. Some provinces have only a few. In Ontario, we have 23. We have removed our exceptions. We said to the world, you can come here, you can do business. There are no exceptions in Ontario. We're open for business. We're the first and only province ever to do that. And those exceptions are permanent. You can never get them back. That's it. They're done. They're done. You can never have those returned. And then very quickly, we have what's called mutual recognition. So if you make a pizza product in Nova Scotia, and it's packaged in this beautiful black box, and it's got a gold decal on the front, and the font is, 24-point Helvetica. And it's wrapped in 1/16 millimeter, I'm making that up, acetate. That's accepted. It passed all your regulations in Nova Scotia, but it doesn't meet our regulations for some reason. What we said is, if it's good enough for you in Nova Scotia, then it's good enough for us. Ship them in. We will understand that it's different, but we will treat it as its equivalent. So that's it. We'll take anything
if you take ours, we'll take yours. So we'll take anybody's product from around the country now, and you have an open market in Ontario. So that's really recognition. That's pretty bold. But very bold for your life. We've also said that we will have labor mobility, and that means if you're an architect in Manitoba and you want to come to Ontario, you can come Monday morning and start work. You got 6 months though to get your paperwork in order, but you can start work on Monday morning. That's labor mobility. And then the third and final thing is direct to consumer alcohol. And it's important for Niagara because if a couple from Saskatchewan comes in and goes to one of the wineries, loves the wine, buys a few bottles, takes it home in their luggage, it's fine. They can do that. They can buy all the alcohol they want and take it with them. Take it with them. But when you go home, you say, God, I wish I had some more of that wine. It's the time here to get it. And now you'll be able to go online to the vineyard, the winery, and order it direct. It will be direct consumer. You can order it and have it shipped. So your Niagara wine will be able to be shipped anywhere. That's what's happening. So that's all because of Donald Trump. Because there's $200 billion in trade that we're going to create that doesn't cost anybody one penny to do. So that's the whole idea behind it. Anyway, I talked longer than I should have, but I just wanted you to know a little bit that of what's being done on your behalf by all of us. So thank you.
Perfect. Well, only on the pass or Minister Fernando. Good job, Mike. Okay, so before we finish up here, we'll be heading down to the main level from the cycle plan discussion. You can take the stairway, right behind the mezzanine here, or if you need the elevator, go through the second set of doors, and the elevator on this way. The panel room has a seating for the 60 people from standing room, where if you can list the panel discussion from here, you'll be able to watch them on live streams and view here. After the listening, the meetings just to the main reception desk. And please enjoy the food and beverage provided by Timber Control as well as Ravine Home. So, really, thank you for the good morning. So, they will have a couple of sections of the simple exams and have little too much wine. Can you expect to see help staff with safe transportation options? And lastly, a lot of people see the potential company with all organizations and community-based entrepreneurs. Making sure that they can have to stop single civilian organizations that have been commercialized right here in our backyard. This is an opportunity for them to showcase their products and for you to provide valuable feedback and help make them know. In fact, we're actually in the silent pitch competition, and if you go to the table to see a QR code, scan the QR code, and don't pay for everyone, and at the end of the night, there'll be cash prizes for the top 10 winners as well. With that, thank you to all of our sponsors for this event, City Valley Falls, the town of Fort Erie, the Bangalore Economic Development Department, Payment Technology, and of course, the Ontario government. Thank you guys so much, and just in the main floor.
No PS? Okay.
I'm Beth from Tony Baldwin. What's up? So, all
team, City of Niagara Falls, Town of Fort Erie, the region, of course, for your partnership in putting this together. I'd welcome once again Minister Fedeli. I'm not sure if he left, but it was said earlier, and I think it's true. We've seen the tireless work that he's done abroad and here in Canada. And his presence in the region means a lot, and I think his presence today means a lot. So thank you again to him. Chair Bradley, thank you for your support and partnership with manufacturing industry as always. George Spezza and Marco Marino from the region's ECDEV team. All of our other EDOs across the region, we have some of them here. There's St. Catharines, there's Welland, I'm probably missing a few. Any other dignitaries that I've missed? And Mayor Redekop, wherever you are, one of the perks of the job that I have is I get all kinds of cool swag from our community partners, including our offices. So today when I was at the sock door, I had to make a decision, and I chose Fort Erie because of where we are. So that's a little tip of the cap to Mayor Redekop and the Fort Erie team, Danielle Carey. Thank you very much. So I'm going to start the panelists with the hardest question of the evening. We're going to humanize things a little bit here, and I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves rather than have me read off a piece of paper. So in 60 seconds-ish, we'll do that, 60 to 90. We'll start with intros, and we'll start to my right here with Rob.
60 seconds.
Floor is yours. That's it. Total. You can go a bit long.
Thanks, everyone. My name is Rob Forstinger. I'm the president of a company in St. Catharines called FPT. We're a high precision, heavily engineered machining company. We do work in the nuclear space, defense, semiconductor for all the little chips in your computers and phones, automotive, a lot of power generation type work. Simply put, like we do high precision machining on things that are, kind of fit in a bread box for anybody that's over 50 years of age. A lot of design, traditional tool and die. Our head tool and die designer and manufacturing guy is here. We employ about 100 people, 40,000 square foot, and we're just beginning stages, adding on an addition to that space right now as well.
Thanks, Rob. That was great, by the way.
Thank you.
Kira?
Hi, thanks everybody for staying. My name is Kira Theodosopoulos. I'm the HR manager at Airbus Helicopters Canada, just down the street. I'm pretty sure Jordan had us introduce ourselves because he did not want to say my last name out loud in public. So he says humanize, I say just make Kira say it. I have 13 years of HR experience. I spanned industries like retail, construction, manufacturing, and now aerospace. So Airbus Helicopters Canada, we are a composite manufacturing center of excellence. We also have a completions line where we do helicopter completions. We do repair and overhaul and dynamic component repair. And we also have an engineering center as well. And I'm here to speak on the people lines today.
Awesome. Well done, Andrew. You got to follow suit. 60 to 90 seconds. I think we know who you are, but tell us a bit about yourself and this beautiful building of yours.
All right. Andrew Harbour with Bateman Technologies. Third generation in the business. I think that's even been mentioned a couple times. We're in our plant, our Canadian distribution. I now manage our U.S. Canadian operations. You've seen this plant quite a bit. We've got 3 other locations here in town, though, a total of 210,000 square feet. We've also got 13 distribution hubs across Canada, everywhere from St. John's, actually Paradise, Newfoundland, all the way out to Langley, BC. And we're in Sewanee, Georgia as well, too. In my spare time, I like wearing foam fingers that promotes Niagara College. Got a couple other foam finger wearers over there. But no, it's backgrounds in business, but been thrown into a lot of different roles over my time here, and just making things up as I go along.
Amen.
Thanks, Andrew. And last but not least, John from Siltech.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. John DeLue. I'm the operations manager for Siltech. We are just finishing construction of that shiny, brand new big plant just down the road. 180,000 square feet. It's the third plant in our company. We make specialty silicone polymers. So you won't find a can of our products on your garage shelf, but pretty much every textile and personal care product out in the market today has a little bit of silicone polymer in it. So the clothes you're wearing, the car seat you're sitting on your way home tonight, the foam in that car seat, makeup, shampoo, suntan lotion, the finger, yes. A little bit of silicone polymer goes into those products, and that's what we make. We have customers around the world. We ship our products around the world, and we are happy to start up phase 3 of our operation here in Fort Erie. Thank you.
Awesome. Congratulations on that too. Looks beautiful. Mark insists that I will get a tour soon, so excited for that. All right, so we're going to begin with a few questions that tie into what I would call challenge 1 or 1A for most of our members within the manufacturing sector here in Niagara. Workforce development and business continuity. Okay, so we've got a great cross-section here of panelists, and I think they can all kind of attack this area from a few different angles. We're going to start with Rob on this side. The word crisis kind of continues to come up as we discuss possible ways to bring youth into the trades and backfill the large boomer population and demographic that has started to age out of the workforce. So with that in mind, what are the biggest challenges that you face when it comes to recruiting skilled labor? And how are you adapting your strategies to address this? When I say skilled labor, just a preface on that, we'll talk about skilled trades, very critical, but skilled trades, skilled labor, a little bit of a different nuance there. So skilled labor in general.
Okay, so it was a number of years ago, when you're thinking from a sales standpoint, there's a lot of effort that goes into getting new customers and retaining customers. And I think we were fortunate enough that the sales team was maybe a little bit ahead of our plant. So it was like we almost had one too many sales guys. Like we had an easier job than the plant had because they were always trying to play catch up. And we decided to flip that around and go like the same amount of effort that we put into obtaining a new customer or retaining a customer, let's get that going for new team members. So working with high schools, the local Niagara College, they do a great job. Yeah, for sure. So it takes a huge amount of effort. I'm not saying it's easy, but it's not easy getting new customers. It's not easy running a business, but companies can no longer say that, well, it's a difficult thing to find new employees. So they put their hands up. It's a huge amount of effort that it takes. But we've been lucky enough that the high school kids have been really, really good. Again, the Niagara College, a little bit of Mohawk. The retention rate with those kids, it's really, really high. And even I complain about the new generation a little bit, but they're willing to work hard. They're willing to learn different skills. So it's not as for a gradual growth, it's not a problem at all. But it's for the spikes where you need to find like a number of new people instantly that it can be a problem. But for the gradual growth, the kind of the predicted growth, it's been okay. You have to put that same amount of thought into retaining them as well. Years ago, you'd hire somebody and think, well, they're either going to leave to go to GM to get a lot more money, or we're going to fire them, or they're going to retire here. Nowadays, kids don't have that same mindset. They're willing to jump ship after a short period of time and go to a different career or a different company. We're lucky enough that it's not to a great extent with our company. We feel very fortunate that way, but you still have to have some backup for those occasions when they do jump ship.
Yeah. That's good. And hold that thought. We'll get into retention as well in a bit more detail in a second. Kira, yeah, so let's go to you now with respect.
It's actually more of an HR question anyway.
So that's really great.
You figured it out. But in terms of recruitment, Kira, Love to hear your thoughts.
You know, gone are the days of like post and pray, and you're going to have 100 applicants. You might have 100 applicants, half of them don't live in Canada, the other half of them have never done anything remotely close to what you're asking them to do. So you do have to get creative. And I've done a lot of work with a lot of our ECDEV teams, employment solutions, working with different municipalities, because it has to start in high school. And it's not even just the mentality of the students, it's changing the mindset of the parents. A lot of parents now want better for their kids than what they have. They don't want their kids to have a labor-intensive job. But a lot of these students are going to university and they're coming out and they're still not finding jobs. So even though we wanted the best for them and they're going to go to university, they're not even getting those jobs. So we have to change the mindset that being hands-on and being more technical is not as prestigious as, say, an office job. So we've done a lot of workshops and, you know, night career fairs where it's really geared towards the parents and telling them how successful their children can be and how much money they can make out of school. So it starts there. We haven't seen, you know, the fruits of our labor from that yet, but hopefully in years to come, we'll start to see some of those younger generations choose careers in the trades, choose careers in manufacturing. So I think that's, you know, you have to start there. But then in terms of recruiting, it's, you know, going out, going to job fairs and putting your company out there. Airbus Helicopters has been around for 40 years. And half the time I'll say I work at Airbus Helicopters and they either think I am Airbus Shuttle Company or I'm Niagara Helicopters. And I have to say, no, like we make helicopters right here in Fort Erie. So it's also brand recognition. People have to know what you do, they have to know what you stand for, and they have to believe in your values. And I think it's so important for employers, all employers, to get out there and really showcase who they are, because that's when people want to work for you, is when they hear from you, they see you, they know what you do. So I think that's really important when it comes to recruitment.
It's good to hear too, because I'm encouraged by the youth piece, because both of you have kind of said that high school level is starting to, and that, you know, parents kind of are tied very closely to the high school level and youth. We're starting to see a bit of a flip there as well at scale, where that's not necessarily a black hole, it's something that's improving. Andrew, we'll jump to you on this one real quick with respect to you're hiring a breadth of staff here. Recruitment strategies. What are you looking at? What are you up to?
Yeah, overall, when I first entered the company, when I first took over as general manager, we have a pretty crazy business here. Like at times that we're reacting to events, flooding, hurricanes, wildfires that can give massive spikes up. And so what we really leaned into lean manufacturing and the equipment out in the shop to really try and be able to quickly kind of onboard a lot of our shop floor staff kind of as quickly as possible and get them up and running. When I first took over the plant management roles, we had a lot of archaic press brakes, things of that nature that frankly and I'm not trying to be insulting at all, but that a lot of them had what we refer to almost as Bibles for like the setup of their machines, and that if you took that even a couple feet away from them, people started to get antsy, because that was like all their setups, all their known knowledge. It was almost like a trade in itself. So we've gone much more into leaning into the technology of the equipment, of that all the programming is done up front, that it's like user graphical interfaces that we find that both young and old find, like, you know, a wide range can really get up and running really quickly, and the safety features, as soon as that was one of the largest things. I'll tell you, when you come into a plant, and we've had a lot of long-term employees that we've had over 5 people retire from this place just since in the last 10 years that have over 55 years of service. Wow. Right? So when you're doing that, and some of them like are missing a couple digits of their fingers, you know, it's like, I want to shake everyone's hand in retirement, 5 full fingers, because that asking too much. Right. So I'm like, you know, that was a very early kind of metric for me of like, so on that front, I think, you know, offering a really competitive baseline of benefits, pay, the whole bit, creating as great an environment as possible, comfortable through lean and kaizens and looking at health and safety. And we do a lot of events looking at processes, and a lot of them take into consideration of like, maximum lifts or, everything between, knees and shoulders, and, really trying to lean in that way. And then I will say it's gotten a bit better. I think, COVID, as awful as it was, it brought a lot of great people into the region. And that for a lot of positions that we've had better success kind of posting and trying to recruit. But a lot of it's networking, and then you get an employee that gives a reference or stuff like that, leaning into a lot of those things as well too. So just kind of networking that way. But yeah, I don't have maybe you almost should have taken all my time.
That's okay.
It's careful where you go for it.
To talk. I actually have one more point I wanted to say. I think as employers and as hiring managers, we really need to look at the qualifications that we're putting in our job descriptions. I have seen a lot of companies put a long laundry list of qualifications, and I go, is that actually necessary, or is that just kind of what you want a unicorn to have? Because what happens is you put in all these qualifications, and half the people that could probably actually do the job go, oh, I'm not qualified, I can't apply for this job. And half of those people, they're women and immigrants, and people of color and minority groups. So I think it's really important when we're posting jobs that we're posting what we actually need and not just what we think is nice to have or some pie in the sky wish. So that was one thing. You said something else. Oh, competitive wages. That's a baseline. That's a must. If you don't have competitive wages, you might as well not be in business, because people can just go down the street and make the same money. So I think that's a given, which is good that you said that. Sorry, I'm done.
Thank you for that. No, great points. My takeaway there is that some folks get Rolex watches when they retire. You give out bionic fingers. Interesting. So we'll kind of jump off. John and team is going to have a lot of hiring to do, I would imagine, in the next little while, and have a lot of experience. But kind of jumping off from that question, so we finally do find the unicorns. We find some good staff. Now keeping them for longer than a month or a year, as Rob points out, becomes the next challenge, and it seems to be that that's a harder thing to do than it used to be necessarily. So my question, John, for you to start. What are the most effective retention strategies that you folks are using to keep top talent, particularly in what is now a very competitive labor market?
We've been challenged with retention too, and actually the location of our third plant here in Niagara is part of that strategy. We invest an enormous amount of time and money into training people for a specialty job, and particularly in our Toronto plant, people leave not because of salary or opportunity. They can't afford a house. So we often have situations where we have a young person, mid-20s working in the plant, and their spouse completes a degree, and the spouse finds a job, say, in London, and they're moving off because they can afford a house in London, they cannot afford a house in Toronto. So Fort Erie for our workforce will be a much more attractive place to live. We've seen this as well with the number of applicants we had from our existing plants to move to the Fort Erie plant. The other thing we do provide is opportunity, and that goes hand in hand with growth. So we are fortunate to be a high growth company, and along with growth comes opportunities. So we are building a new plant. We had 4 senior operators from our existing 2 plants who are taking up foreman positions here for the 4 crews we'll staff the plant up with. They might have waited 5 or 6, 7 years before an opportunity came up in the existing. Wow. And then they create backfill for the next backup supervisors. So with the growth, we always get movement, turnover.
It sounds cliche sometimes, but I think, I don't want to say it's easy, but you can put some action, as you have some strategic action behind programs like that internally so that you can actually map out a path for these folks as opposed to it's just something nice and flowery that you say in an interview. Well, how do I get there? What's the path look like? And I think that's where some companies might fall short. Rob, you started talking about retention a minute ago in the first question. Did you want to elaborate? You probably have quite a few staff who have been there for some, maybe not 55 years, but some time. How are you keeping your good employees?
Yeah, not 55. I think we've got, unfortunately, we had a fellow that retired the end of last year who had 46. We've got a couple 45s in our facility right now, but still a long time. But for retention, as you were saying, the wage and benefit, like that's just standard. Like everybody has to have competitive wages and good benefits. We're really finding just like the soft side is super important. A lesson my father taught me years ago is that you should never ever be looking at your pocket. Like you have to make sure that everybody that works for you, they have families, they have people that they have to take care of as well. So whether that be monetary or just by understanding their situation at home, they may or may not be going through a tough time. But you have to understand that they have family. Maybe their wife doesn't want them to work steady afternoons or midnights because she doesn't want to be at home alone. So I think having that sympathy and that understanding is very important. But then the biggest thing for us is just appreciating people who they are, showing them respect, and all the soft things, whether it be, I call them attaboys, little gift cards on a regular basis, shop barbecues, like that's like the biggest hit, our company golf tournament, man oh man. All those little things that, in all honesty, don't cost a lot of money. The guys love that. But then I think, Andrew, you were saying as well, just allowing them progression. They might be a machinist one day, but they give them that opportunity, that voice to go like, what would you like to do in 5 years? Would you like, you want to go into inspection or in purchasing, quality? Like there's different opportunities within our company that we need bodies to fill. So having those opportunities other than the traditional machining, machine company type things are important.
What you just described a moment ago, to me, I always call it the kind of the a la carte approach to employees, as opposed to everyone kind of has to fit into our corporate policy. And if you don't, too bad, you're kind of out the door. Employers don't have that. If you want to call it a luxury, it's really not. But you can't treat people like that anymore. So if you're really meeting folks individually where they're at and kind of tailoring their employment experience to their needs, there's something to that, and you're seeing more of that approach.
Yeah.
Same with you. You and I worked together, and that was something we talked about a lot. So.
To touch a bit on what you're saying about different things work for different people, I think I've heard a lot of talk about it, and I'm sure everyone else has. Generationally, we have so many generations in the workplace, and what works for, say, a boomer is not going to work to retain a Gen Z. And I think as a business owner or an executive, you go, well, how can I possibly do something for everybody? There's, everybody has different needs, and I think it really highlights the need to focus on your frontline leaders, your supervisors, your team leads, your managers who are working with these people every day. Hopefully, if they're strong enough, they know them intimately and they know, what's going to make them tick, what's going to make them motivated. So for a Gen Z, that might be more time off, flexibility. For a boomer, that might be recognition at a barbecue. So different things are going to work for different people. And it's kind of knowing your workforce and hoping that your supervisors, and investing in your supervisors and managers to be able to give you those answers. I said I was going to say something that might be controversial because I can't not do that when I get a microphone and a glass of wine. When I talk about flexible time off, one thing that I stand so hard on is if you offer 10 paid sick days, please don't penalize people or make them feel guilty for taking those sick days. Who in this room has taken a sick day and then either felt bad about it, guilty, or afraid to come back the next day? Anybody? Just me? Oh, Jordan, you called this. It was going to be me and my anxiety altogether. Thank you for everyone else who raised their hand. But I think if we offer them, we have to stop, penalizing people for taking them. It's a benefit. It's part of their compensation. And we need to recognize mental wellness and physical wellness as the same. If somebody needs a mental health day, that's a sick day, just like they're going to the doctor's office. And we need to stop giving people a hard time. I think for Gen Zs, that's going to be a big one. So, that's my 2 cents.
Thank you for that. We'll kind of wrap up some of the HR stuff. Sorry, Karen, you can leave. We finally, with respect, I would say to workforce, the business continuity topic is a concern for many businesses here in Niagara. Our manufacturing sector here generally has a high representation of ownership that falls into the multi-generational category. And many of the current owners are nearing the point of retirement or divestiture, sometimes without the next generation of family waiting in the wings, as it typically has in past generations. We, I think, as a community, as a region, as a sector, want to ensure the continuity of these businesses and make sure they're going to continue on. So we've got 2 kind of multi-generational folks on the panel here, which is awesome. We'll start with Andrew on this one. I'll ask you, with many experienced workers nearing retirement, coupled with an aging generation of owners, not yourself, you're beautiful. How are you approaching succession planning to ensure not just business continuity in terms of like who's the owner, but knowledge transfer, especially for making sure that ongoing continuity of the business happens?
Yeah, I'll maybe tie in a final response to your
Sure.
last couple of questions and then move into this one. It's like, because we got, here's what I say, a lot of probably different size businesses in the crowd, or people working in different size organizations. So I'm trying to think like what would be helpful when we started out, because like we have grown. When I started out from general manager in 2006 to now, we've grown 12 and a half times. So it's like how do you do like, right? So you go back and like part of it is like what I'll say is with recruitment and with like you really like I would like for me, one of the things that I didn't have in my toolbox, I was not a CFO or controller. So like it was extremely important to me to go out and hire like, a really, really good finance person at a certain point. And I learned the hard way. We just had a bookkeeper when I was there, and we've got 3 CPAs on staff. That's an area that we provided, Natalina and Scott, who have touched like people here today. Just embody kind of like, I'm like, you get a few hires, right? Because like you get to the size, like you can't touch every person. Like, so even though the wage might be at or above, it's like, you've got like your next layer down that you're entrusting to frankly figure out all these problems of like succession and the whole bit. And then I'm like, if you nail them down as well and hire like a whole bunch of awesome people, it's like I've generally found that awesome people and high performers like other awesome people and high performers. And that kind of builds. And then if you get that layer right, all the other layers trickling down seem to fall like, to align and fall. And yeah, it's like, it's a bit like it's all over the place right now, and a work from home and the landscape and entertainment. Anyway, I'm a bit all over the place, but because I'm a bit like, hey, when I'm trying to recruit or get people in, and I'm trying to sign them up for the mission. And I think there's like a why in most businesses, a why do you exist, the Simon Sinek, right? And like that, hearing Simon Sinek's TED Talk, 15 minutes long, hit me like a bolt of lightning, 2014. I'll just give you my quick, like, why abatement technologies exist. Because I think it's different. Like when my grandfather started it, it was to provide food on the table, to his own business. When my father started it, it was because my grandfather was ill and maybe finding a next chapter. I did it. My first number of years was out of an act of like trying not to fail. Like I didn't want to be the third generation that screwed up. But we built air filtration products that keep people healthy. air filtration, like hospital-associated illnesses are the third largest killer in Canada, only behind cancer and heart disease.
Wow.
Okay, and of that, 8% of that total is directly linked back to construction hospital projects in hospitals. And when I was 17, I came down with Crohn's disease. I was in the hospital, was supposed to be for 4 days, and I ended up getting a hospital-associated illness, and I ended up in the hospital 6.5 months. I had 4 surgeries, 3 of them life-saving. I couldn't eat orally for 4.5 months of my life. The government would have spent $4 to $5 million to get me better. Okay, so like when I talk to people, I'm like, we're on a freaking mission here. Like that's our why. Okay, and most people can relate to someone that they know. And I think trying to establish and connect with people, it's like, yeah, you can go down the street. You know, you can work and listen. We're trying to be really. We're if we get this right, we can pay above the average wage, and we can all do really good. But you know, we can't chase everyone, and frankly, sometimes you gotta place bets on certain places. Sorry for talking a bit too much, but like,
No,
you know,
I've heard you tell that story before. It's a powerful one, and I think it's important for all businesses to kind of find that. It's not always easy to do, but yeah, great story. Rob, we'll ask you the same question with respect to getting some feedback here. Sorry, guys. Succession planning, knowledge transfer. Maybe even for you, Rob, think of like your shop staff, people on the floor who maybe have a ton of experience with process and operation, equipment operation, some of your operators. How are you shifting some of that knowledge between aging out staff or close to retirement staff and maybe some of the newer folks without losing productivity? I'm sure you've got that all figured out.
Yeah, it's actually a scary thing. I actually brought a number of guys up north for a weekend, and it was I sold it as we're going to do a little bit of work and have a lot of fun. And the group, they were actually like very motivated to and it was a SWOT analyst, and we were talking about the threats, and you look at like the growth pattern that we want to have, but then at all the people that like in 5 years that are not going to be no longer be at a company, or 10 years, it's like, holy crap, like we've got to replace all the best people in our company and add more for the growth. How are we doing that? And then the wheels kind of came off and we started drinking. It's like, oh, this is a good weather.
Triple deer and drinks and scotch.
Yeah. But it's such an important part. It's like one of the most important parts. It's like I think a lot of the companies that do fail, especially like family run businesses that maybe don't have that foresight to look into the future, why they either end up selling the assets or just closing their doors. So it's a must. You have to look in. And then, you mentioned Unicorn, Kyle Stewart, who's head of business development for us. He calls it a purple squirrel. We have certain people in our company that are purple squirrels, and you're not going to be able to replace them, or we haven't had any success. But I was determined to find that purple squirrel, and he's going like, you can't, like, stop, and divide the role. So we have a couple purple squirrels that are towards the end of their career. So we've specifically taken their role and divided it, and try to go, okay, well, we have somebody that's really good at sales, but they're not very technical, or they struggle with certain other aspects of that job. But, we try to find somebody to fill that role. So I think, first of all, just being aware, you can't ignore it. And then really look into, the people that have been with you, like they are the heart and soul. And it's going to take a long time. It's not like 6 months or a year or 3 years. It takes a long, long time. So putting that back up in place, unfortunately, sharing offices so you can kind of try to learn from that person as much as possible, setting a plan in place. And it's a cost, right? But it's a cost of doing business. But without it, you're going to fail. There's no doubt about it.
I know I'm not a multi-generational owner, but interestingly at Airbus, we struggle with the same thing, succession planning. A lot of our senior leadership team is looking at retiring in the coming years. And we were fortunate to bring on a company that kind of helped us map their jobs. But one interesting thing that we recognized is when people get promoted, they take a little bit of their job before with them and they keep doing it. And then all of a sudden, these jobs become massive and they're doing things you had no idea they were doing. And I would recommend that you look at job descriptions of what people are supposed to be doing and then ask them what they're actually doing. Because where you think they're spending their time might be completely different than when they're actually spending their time. And if you can figure that out and have them focus, you could probably have your people be more productive and identify where in your organization you need to grow or add a role because somebody's been doing 7 jobs and now they're going to retire and you need to hire 7 more people to replace them. So
You thought they were doing one.
you thought they were doing one and they're doing multiple. So it was something that we've recognized and it's kind of a good practice to look at what everybody's kind of doing in your organization.
Thanks for that. We're going to shift gears here. We'll start with John on this topic. I'm not going to say the T word, but we're going to talk about, the talk of 2025 has been centered around, let's just call it the trade landscape, okay? Primarily with the US, which is drastically impacting our value chains, especially for local businesses here when we're talking about Niagara. This has forced us to rethink how we compete globally and how we secure stable partnerships with both customers and vendors. Emerging sectors such as EV, energy have also created disruption in the marketplace and pose questions around how our local manufacturers can tap into some of these emerging sectors, we can call them. John, your firm is obviously kind of globally positioned, fingers and toes in a lot of different markets and sectors. So what would you say are some of the emerging sectors that are showing promise, either in Niagara specifically or Ontario or nationally or internationally within the landscape, and how can both our traditional manufacturers but also our more sophisticated manufacturers pivot to tap into some of these opportunities? That's a big one, I know, but I'm thinking market expansion and sector growth. What are some of the opportunities there, and how do we get access to those opportunities?
I think there were a few questions there. And I would relabel the T word as the C word, chaos. And to manage the chaos, you need to be nimble. And to be nimble, you need to empower your people to make decisions. That allows an organization to react quickly. I think that's very important times like these, because it might not be good change, but it's change, and every change also has opportunity as well as problems. So we need people to, the whole workforce to be out there looking for opportunities in the change and then capitalize on them. That was successful for us during COVID. Siltec grew 30% a year during the COVID years because we were not hamstrung by bureaucracy at the time. And we could react faster than competitors, and we did so. This is more of the same. So when you think about the chaos in the trade environment right now, there's also opportunities to bypass that chaos. So, for instance, contract manufacturing. We have a pretty large contract manufacturing footprint as well. That allows us to bring in raw materials from countries that are otherwise tariffed, in China, and convert it and sell that product back into the U.S. under NAFTA tariff-free. It's an opportunity that we recognize. So, is the trade chaos hurting us? Yes, but it's also creating opportunities for further growth. And when that trade chaos maybe stabilizes, we're left with that additional business and recover the previous business that maybe has been challenged. There was another question in there as well.
No, yeah, pivoting, but emerging sectors. Are there any that stand out for you folks that you've been able to kind of tap into with your core product offering? Or any that you see on the horizon that you really want to go after, be it energy, EV, any of the flowery ones that we know about?
Energy conservation has certainly been a big one. So for instance, the addition of silicone polymers to coatings, and it can be a very small fraction, but it can make an enormous difference in the surface friction of a cured coating. So this is really creating some game changers for our customers in things like marine coatings, aerospace coatings. There are other applications too where we've seen silicones make their way in. Diode lighting is an example.
Andrew, we'll jump to you for this one. Abatement's obviously pivoted a few times over the years. How do you guys identify those pivot opportunities? And then when you see the opportunity, how do you make it all happen? How do you make it come together while keeping the ship afloat?
Yeah, here's what I'll say is that, again, to kind of speak, yeah, here's how I feel, because it's tough. Like, abatement doesn't fit into a box, like a neat little box of like, well, this would be a key industry to focus on. Like, I mean, maybe you could say we're a bit health sciences or healthcare related, and that sounds pretty cool, or but it's much more to me like, raise your hand in the audience if you thought and this unbelievable company would come to Fort Erie and build this, 180, 190,000 square foot facility and have all this promise and thought it would be in the silica business.
You're not allowed to raise your hand if you didn't raise your hand for me.
Right? Like, anyway, so here's a bit of like, here's just a bit what I would say to back up is like, it's tough. It's like, I know we like, personally, I feel we get in these like situations as a country, as a province, or and that you want to do something, or like there's the sexy kind of things that are coming up, like EV battery, or we live in one that outside what we do, filtration is a really sexy industry of that people are chasing. To give for government or for the region to like earmark or trying to attract certain types of business, I think is a fool's errand. I think that it's more like lay the path, like lay the ground. Because like, okay, so it should be more, the way I look at it is like, all right, the secret's up. Niagara's friggin' awesome. All these people that came down during COVID and like, who would ever want to move to Toronto and get back into that gig? And you know what else works? Bulk of the time, like even, hey, this I might get a bit of booing for this, but hybrid workers working 4 days in the office. But like Toronto, you'd have to hold a gun to my head to get me to go down to Bay Street like 4 days a week. Niagara, like it's like a walk in the park to drive in, and frankly, there's less distractions, and my kids like in the background and stuff like life like happening, and I like the coworkers, so I like coming to the office. Right? I'm like, we got everything here. We're by one of the 5 or 6 largest economic hubs between Canada and the US. It's at our friggin' doorstep. So I'm like, just creating these grounds. And it's like, when you try and pick and choose, well, this industry would be great. Like again, I'm not a hyper super genius. So it's like, I wouldn't have picked a great company like Siltech to throw money at to come here. But wow, how lucky are we to have a company like Siltech come? A lot of around the table, when we're doing the round table, like these businesses are all over the place. It's like the, box of chocolates, like the Forrest Gump. right? They're so random because you know what? The most profitable businesses normally are the ones that aren't very sexy.
Aerospace is very sexy. I don't know what you're talking about.
Good, fantastic points. And yeah, if we're talking about the word resilience is cliche, but I think Niagara is a fantastic example of what resilience truly means, where we don't have that one sector or two sectors kind of propping up the entire region in manufacturing. We have we have some of those, but we have a lot of specialized manufacturers who do something very unique and niche and they do it very well, and they're recognized, and they just need they'll figure out ways to pivot. They'll be resilient. They'll figure out ways to stay afloat. And I think we've seen examples of that for a long time here. So fantastic. In the interest of time, I've got just a couple more questions for you folks. So leapfrogging into innovation and technology, and we're losing. They're heading out. It's getting late.
Sit on it, Michael. That's a way for you wider out the world.
So when we talk about innovation, integration of innovation and technology into manufacturing firms, the word innovation is just so broad and it's used so loosely these days. For some manufacturers here, that could mean having a computer on my desk with Windows 98 on it. Truly, we have, it is a very broad brushed term. When I think about educating our members and some of our manufacturers here in the region about innovative concepts, the term, meeting them where they're at comes to mind over and over again. Most of you folks work in very kind of technologically advanced industries. So we'll start, Kiera, let's start with you on this one. Helicopters are kind of like advanced. You know how
But I work in human resources, right? Okay.
You looked up.
Scott's looking at me like, oh no.
Scott, you try one.
Sorry, Scott.
But when we think about innovation adoption into our manufacturing operations, what are some of the barriers that are stopping us from integrating technology and AI, right? People say, whoa, AI. How do we help overcome those barriers? And how can we, for me, I always think about the ROI potential. How can we show an ROI to manufacturers to say, this is why you should invest in this automation or this whatever?
Okay, I can't answer that question, but I'm going to make up my own question and then I'm going to answer it for myself. So I'm actually on the program advisory committee for the new Niagara Falls University. Shout out to them. Felicia's not in here, but she'd be happy I gave her a shout out. And I'm on the program advisory committee for the business program that they had. And they were asking, they're doing a lot of digital and data, and they're teaching students how to interpret this and adopt new programs. And one of the recommendations that I gave was you need to also teach these students about change management, but also about the cultures of companies in Niagara, because a lot of them have generational, again, different generations who are much less change. They're change resistant, I would say, a little change hesitant. So, we can teach these students all of these great technologies and how to use AI, and then they come into the workplace and they're like, well, why are we doing this? We need to do this, this, and this. And they're all excited, and the business is like, whoa, you're going to need to slow down. And then they lose the steam, then they're all defeated. So I think we need to start teaching the students who are learning the AI how to tell the story, how to show the ROI. Should be part of the education when they learn this, because they're going to come into companies that are going to go, you have no idea what you're talking about. You don't know the history. We've been doing this for 50 years. You got Carol in the back. She's filing, and they're just not going to understand. She just retired, sir. But Pick stuff up when I get a microphone. So I think one thing to touch on from a people lens, if you're recruiting and you are using any kind of AI to recruit, this is kind of news that's just come out. So Workday is a system that has a recruitment tool in it, and it's actually being sued right now by a gentleman in the States who is African American. He's also disabled, and he went through one of these recruitment tools, and he could prove that the questions that they asked through this applicant screening system were discriminatory. And so now he is suing Workday. If you know how many companies, and Airbus included, although we don't use the recruitment tool the same way that these other companies did, they were using them and it was filtering out candidates based on discriminatory grounds. So if you do have an applicant tracking system, I'm sure you guys might not be in HR or recruitment, but it might be worthwhile to check what kind of questions that you're asking to screen out applicants, because although technology is great, it has its limitations. And it's only as good as the people that use it, so you want to make sure you're not having any discriminatory hiring practices.
Well, you are.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
There we go. Have a good night.
To Carol.
Former NIA board member, we all love her. She is not dead for us. You have to retire. My goodness. John, how is Siltech integrating and incorporating technology, automation, robotics into your operations? And how are you getting over any roadblocks that you're in?
I'm going to back that up a little bit.
Back it up.
With the strategy description.
Okay.
We get new customers by going to our customers and understanding what their problems are, helping them solve the problem. So we literally will cook up a new silicone polymer chemistry that specifically meets their need, and then we've got that customer forever. When it comes to new technology, I don't know how AI works or something like that, and I'm not going to. I'm not going to be working that long that I'm going to invest time in learning how it works. I need somebody to come to us to understand how we work and work with us to come up with a solution that fits our company. Yeah. And we've had successes like this. A recent one is boiler feed water automation and optimization. It's something that we did not have our eye on, and that had a pretty good payback.
Makes total sense. And I think what you said about yourself is the first step of part of the problem, which is I'm not going to take the time to learn AI, but I think for a lot of folks it stops there, and you can't just leave it there. You have to say I have to bring in the right people to do so. We got two more questions, and I want to leave some time for Q&A, so we're gonna skip to the next one. Andrew, I'll start with you because you had some strong comments in our small roundtable with Minister Fedeli. Strong but fair. They were very reasonable comments, but let's talk about policy and support. So, advocacy is a big part of what the NIA does. The manufacturing sector doesn't always get the love that we deserve here, and hasn't for many years, and sometimes we can be overlooked. The fact that we compete in a global marketplace can get overlooked, and that's critical. I always say the best way for all levels of government to help manufacturers make a positive impact economically is to find ways to allow them to make more money. And then you're going to put that back into the economy. So thinking of some policy things, Andrew, currently and maybe in the future, what kinds of government policies or incentives would most benefit Niagara manufacturers right now?
All right.
Back to an hour ago.
Maybe the least qualified person to answer this question.
It's me.
Yeah, no, you're like, again, I'll get back to more of a fundamental, state. It's and as a overall country, I think we're at hopefully a pivot zone that this is an awesome time. Because it's like, to me, be it conservative, liberal, whoever would have got in, it's like my hopes and a lot of these are already starting to come true. I'm like, we need pipelines of ways to get our energy out to the coast. So we're not taking a discount. It's like at times I want to slam my head against the wall. We should be a rich country and not having to do with a lot of these challenges. And why are we enriching at times our enemies or at times others when we can do oil and gas, natural resources, and mining in a more environmentally friendly way than almost anyone in the world? So that's one. The interprovincial tariffs for one that hopefully get away from them, and that's well on its way. And the other is to build up our military and to get serious about it, because I don't think you have a serious country if you don't have like a military. So those are, but then it gets down like for me of like again local policy. It's like what is going to happen down in the U.S. like the others shoot a drop here. Like tariffs were they're the first act. Okay, the second act is lower taxation for all corporations, and we don't want to be listening this side of the border to a vacuum cleaner. Okay, so like my thing, that's where it's like, you know, yeah, you know, hey, I'm like, you know, full disclosure, like, you know, I'm a million times over fiscally or fiscally conservative, socially like liberal. That's the way, you know, and because it's just like it just feels like even to like it like and it's tough right now in what we're dealing. I think we got to weather the storm. Again, I think I talked at our meeting a bit like, man, I'd love like, you know what is way more effective than a 25% tariff? It's like not buying bourbon and wine, like not buying stuff at all. Like that's American. Like that's effective, and there's no answer to that on the other side. Like I love the Canadian spirit in that. I think it's like when we start tit for tat and we put on reciprocal tariffs, that there's impacts for every time we do something like that, there's impacts. So that can be very detrimental policy. And then when you start going after and laying around, it's like, well, the EV sector sounds super sexy, so we're going to donate or put like hundreds of millions or billions towards that. And then we get that wrong. Like that sucks for us all. Like to me, it's like let's have the board game not be rigged. Let's kind of look at like not try and fight this, not come to a gunfight with a knife. Like not put like so anyway, you know, that's like anyway, it's like I got a knife.
Is a sword like
Well, I think it's just like it's tough to go down to like specific things for here because this is a much larger problem than a Niagara problem. You know, like that's the like hey, it's like it's tough and it's scary at times. Like and I like we're probably hanging out there with the steel and aluminum industry, the auto industry, as a microcosm of the most impacted type of company that could ever exist in today's market. So, yeah, like people ask me all the time, how are tariffs impacting you? Like business wise or personally? Right? So anyway.
Thanks. Well, Rob, same question to you. You just asked me what was the question again. So you're thinking of an expansion, you're thinking of growth. What government policies or incentives at all or any levels would help you today?
Well, yeah, I guess the two easiest things from my standpoint. One, the government I think has been very, very generous, especially to manufacturers. Like there's again, we talked about the board game and being equal. It almost feels unequal right now. And luckily enough, we're in the manufacturing sector. So I think there's lots of different government programs out there. I hope that all sizes, small, and it's tougher for the small guys to have the resources than the ability to look into it, but hopefully they do. So one, I think the money is there. They're being very gracious. I would love, getting back to your point at the beginning, it's sexy to go to university. I have a daughter that's in second year in university, going to Laurier. Hopefully she's not listening, but it's a useless degree. And before she started, I said, sweetie, I said, yeah, basically. when she started, I said, "Sweetie," I said, "it's going to cost like 80 to 100,000." Hopefully, you're not recording this, but
Like wedding night anyway.
I said, "Sweetie, it's going to cost mom and dad about 80 to 100,000 dollars for you to take this 4-5 year degree." I said, "I'll make you a deal." I said, "I will give you that money right now, actually over the 4 years, but with some." I feel like Andrew now. I'm going way off topic. It's okay. You have to start a business. I don't care if you make money or lose money, but just learn something. You have to have a full-time job, and you have to travel the world. So it's like
for adoption, by the way.
right. And she goes, "No, like I'd just be missing out on this great opportunity of going to school." And it's like, yeah, okay, like I think it's a waste of time, but universities have made it so challenging for our kids to not go to university. And that's a shame. So somehow if the government could kind of twist it to offer some incentive to go to trade school, go to colleges. Yeah. Like again, Niagara College, man, you guys are like the people that we hire from Niagara College, you guys are doing a great job. The kids are motivated, they're very intelligent. But those would be the two things, again, because in our case, labor is a big part of it's our biggest cost. And we need a lot of it. And again, like the people that we're hiring, they did the 4-year degree of basket weaving, and now they're, coming to us. They're going, "I'm supposed to pay for that $80,000 loan if you're going to not pay me $100,000 a year." So those would be the two in my case, and I think they're already doing one.
Interesting. Yep. Well said. Okay, we got one question left. Thank you all for your patience. Thank you everybody for staying. Even Mabel came back, so thank you, Mabel. Sorry. So we'll ask all of our panelists this final question. Rob, we'll start with you here and go down the aisle. Really easy one again. We started easy, we're going to end easy. Get your crystal ball out. In your view, what must Niagara's manufacturing ecosystem prioritize today to be ready for the future of manufacturing 5, 10, 20 years down the road? What's the priority?
That's a good question. Again, I guess I'd have to just stick with that whole labor thing. We need bodies, we need people. Yeah, I don't know.
That's
Simple.
That's it. Hey, I told you it was an easy one. And it's I think what you're saying is
and industrial land. I need industrial land.
Rob needs industrial land.
Seriously.
No. And labor, when we talk about labor too, I think just to be clear, what you're saying is it's a volume thing, so it's labor force, but it's also skilled labor. Like we need number of bodies to replace.
It's trainable though. A lot of what we're doing in manufacturing is trainable. So you are really saying bodies, and I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It sounds awful, but sometimes it's 2 feet in a heartbeat. You're just hoping somebody walks in the door.
Right. I'm going to put industrial land ahead of bodies. And to add to that, like I think Niagara, I don't know what industrial land goes per acre right now, but it kind of varies. But you go into like the Toronto GTA area, Kitchener, like they're talking millions of dollars per acre. So if there's somebody that's, I think, crazy enough to do that, put a building up, hire, start manufacturing, or start something, I just don't see how they're going to compete. So we're killing ourselves by not having enough of this land, forcing them to pay $2 million or $3 million an acre. When there should be enough, like we live in Canada, for Christ's sake, like there's a lot of land.
Yeah.
So let's turn some of it into industrial and make it cheap. I was in New Brunswick a week ago. The guy bought 100 acres of land for $60,000.
Wow.
We can manage that, Chair Bradley. I think you're good. Thanks, Rob. Kira, off to you. Priority for the future of Niagara's manufacturing sector.
So
It can be labor too.
it is, but I think there's more to that. So it's labor, but then I think of things like transportation. We're at Fort Erie. It's not easy for people to get to our facility. So even if they can work and they're able and they're skilled, if they don't have a car, they're not making it to work. I think of childcare. You know, I have 2 children. When I had my second child, there was a real big question on if I was going to return back to the labor force. And thank God I did, because you all get to hear me speak today. But it is expensive, and that is a lot of our workforce that is deciding to stay home because they truly cannot afford childcare, and we don't have the village around us that we used to once have. So I think it's that, and transportation, and it's housing. You know, some of our manufacturing jobs, although we call them skilled, they're not always paid like skilled jobs. You know, they're making $25 an hour, and it's hard to afford housing on that. So I think looking at transportation, childcare, housing, all of those things go into labor. And so it's a bigger challenge than just labor. I think it plays into all of those things that we need as a region and as a community to create that labor pool for ourselves.
Andrew, priority for the sector.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, priority for the region or?
For the manufacturing. So what do we need to prioritize as a region?
Well, I just think that trying to put together or polish up the best open for business sign that we can possibly put together. And it's tough. Like, we're not going to solve here tonight world peace or, you know, like the next still young.
That's young.
But like, you just have to be incrementally that much better. Right. And I think that the radius hub, like Rob touched on it. Land in places like Mississauga, Oakville, it's like astronomically expensive. Developers are building on spec there. You can still come to Niagara and make sense of building a owner operated building. And that even though it's tight, there still is some availability. So like, I just think we got to like, I felt that it really turned 2018, 2019, that the tipping point really came, that companies that would normally have looked at Toronto, some of them were starting to look outside due to a lot of other conditions, and like places like Toronto and Guelph and like those next layers out, it was our time, you know, to really kind of, you know, jump on that. And so yeah, the sector specific and stuff, like, again, I think that the Ontario government and this like 15% rebate / like tax incentive, to me those are like perfect ones, because it like, you don't have to, it's not difficult to apply for. It applies like across all businesses. Like, we're not trying to gamify or pick winners or losers, and we're making it super easy. You know, again, just like the more we can do welcome to business, because we got an awesome place here. Again, you couldn't get me out of Niagara with a stick of dynamite. You know, and I think more and more people are discovering that. There's a reason why the traffic is so crazy coming into Niagara every weekend.
Yeah, that part's not fun, but good problem.
It's fun to be here.
It's fun to be here.
Right.
John, you get the last word.
The same issues that had been previously raised: affordable housing and transportation. We know we pay competitively. We still have employees that have trouble making do because housing costs too much. And transportation is the other big problem. How do you retain good people if they're looking at 2-hour commutes to and from your workplace? It's just not going to last. It's not, as a province, a nation, a community, it's not competitive. So we have to fix these problems, and they're big problems, and they're going to need government leadership.
Rob, Kira, Andrew, John, thank you very much. Round of applause for
Do we have some financial Q&A?
I don't even know that.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you so much.
We will do a quick Q&A from the audience, so they would interested to ask questions. But hey, we guys wanted to thank all of our panelists here, especially Jordan Sherlock from the NIA. You know, he's a Ryan Reynolds stunt double, and I don't know if people still think of that, but you got a few followers in line. What we're going to do now is we'll bring you away from the audience if we've got any questions, and after that, I invite you guys to go back upstairs, there's coffee, there's desserts, and there's a whole bunch here. Yeah, there's so much of Rubicon wine still available that we paid for, so please guys go out there and enjoy.
Yeah, okay. Questions? Start right in the front, sorry.
Yeah, so when it comes to the manufacturing of the products and things like that, it sounds like there's still capacity and know-how, but when it comes to the machines that make the things, do you think there's enough capacity and knowledge in Canada to truly scale manufacturing? I was supposed to ask you questions earlier, so.
Yeah, for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Again, comes down to high schools and employers like training people. It's amazing, for sure.
I would say that, like, we have a line, if you have a good aptitude and a good attitude, like, there are literally, like, we can train up anyone in that zone. So that, again, the interfaces, like, we're a bit different because there's none of our jobs out there that really require papers, like that a lot of the companies that make the equipment, they've got unbelievable training programs that they'll bring trainers in and train people up. And frankly, one of the coolest things is like being around people where they're like, it's like, holy crap, like I'm running this $250,000, $1 million piece of equipment and feeling like I think a lot of people are super happy when they're just on that kind of edge where it's like a little bit beyond what they expected in their life or something like, and so, yeah, I don't see any kind of issues with that. Like, again, I like to believe in the human race and that there's lots of people out there that are, willing, able-bodied, and have a great attitude.
Questions? Does everyone want to go home that bad? I got it.
No, we're not going to go home. That's right. Thank you for sharing, because this is industry sharing with what's going on. So I really appreciate the open dialogue and the honesty. My question, I think you might have touched on a little bit, but I want to be more direct to each of you. So R&D, think tank, it touches on that technology and the people and those kinds of things. How do you handle it in your organizations? I sense that you're not large corporations that are multinational that have, corporate head office with R&D arms. So you have to deal with that while you're trying to balance all the operational stuff you talked about. So I'd really be interested to know, where do you go for that R&D, think tank? We call it technology. So I'm interested in how you handle it.
I'll because Airbus definitely does. So we have a center for that. It's in France.
Well, there you go. I mean, so it's not here, and there's probably issues to deal with that. But I'm really interested in knowing that.
We've implemented we run EOS Traction as an operating system for business. For R&D and product development, there's philosophically, like there's a program out there, it's trademarked, so I don't know if you use it all the time, but called StageGate. And so we've got several engineering engineers on staff. But you can lose focus super easily. And there's like lots of things you can do. There's only a limited amount of like what you should be doing. And I think that like running StageGate, so it's like segment in 5 different categories of like doing like business studies and business cases, like lining up like how many of this, like what price do we need to sell this at? What's the market for it? What's the go-to-market strategy? Like doing a business case is you can get so excited and start moving and progressing and spend a crap ton of money. And then so like for us right now, we'll say you can see our walls up there. Okay, so we were, and you've almost got to praise stuff that you're dropping off at times, honestly. That I'll say one thing that we just got feedback recently, and this is like hot off the press.
Did you share?
It's something, okay, we've spent several months developing. One competitor in the marketplace for our wall systems has a 1-hour fire rated wall. And it sounds like really cool. You know what? It's like absolutely not freaking practical whatsoever. They weigh a freaking ton. There's all kinds of things that you have to do above, like with ducting, that just make it like an engineering disaster. The best solution is the solutions out there is to build it out of fire retardant drywall in the way that they have the protocols. And we've spent several months, but we'll get together and celebrate backing away from that project, even though we've invested a lot. We just had $50,000 of competitors' product drop because we were going to study and like cheat. But like we will, well, I mean, hey, you know, that's right. Yeah, Costco or Walmart. So I don't think but I think that that's something like, and I get what John said about like going in, determining needs, and we've got different even lane ways of breaking down products. So some are like moderate like improvements where it's like you've got like an existing product that you're adding a new feature, or you know, you've got an analog like control, so you're moving to a touchpad. Like that's one level maybe that you're going to, and say you've done it before in another model and you're going to add it to that one. Like that's one layer. There could be one that it's like you're having a lot of quality control issues. So it's like, hey, we got to re-engineer this because there's like lots of problems with the units out in the field. But then there's stuff like your moonshots that are like outside your broader understanding. It's some like those are like the biggest friggin' risks because like you don't know, and it could be this unbelievable thing that takes your company. But that's where I'm like, here's also where I'll say is like hire good people to help operate. Like a lot of owners and of businesses are the ones that originated either with the service or the product or what they're doing. And I think that you got to free up mental time to be involved in those decision makings with the product and try and get like an EOS, like get an integrator involved to do the operations and the finance and at least to help out with that stuff, because those are like the most freaking critical decisions you're going to make in your business and could like, you know, lead to total disaster. Like that's what you need. Like between your ears, like those are the biggest decisions I've got going in my humble opinion.
In my experience, a portion of your R&D needs to be focused at solving customers' problems, working with customers, solving their problems. That's what pays the bills. You also need a portion that's creative, freewheeling. That can lead to the big breakthrough. And yeah, maybe it only happens once every 10 or 20 years, but those can be the real game changers.
Any other questions?
Yeah, question. Do all your companies invest in like apprentices and like we talk about trades, but like youth in industry, apprenticeship programs, or do you try and hire right off the street? Do you invest, you know, at a younger age? When do you start looking at, you know, you say you gotta be 4 to 5, 10 years out. Does that mean everybody's looking at, you know, the local high school trade or the local high school technology programs? Do you have youth?
Yeah, I can speak to Airbus. So we do high school co-ops in the summer. We do college, Niagara College. We've had some McMaster, Brock interns. We try and do one every single term. We try to keep it flowing. We're trying to strengthen our intern program, our apprentice program, because I want to make sure that they're learning something at the end of it. So we're still kind of working on that process. But we also have apprentices. So a really hard trade for us to fill right now is AMEs. Aircraft maintenance engineers. It's really hard to find. You can look at all the airlines and the airports. You know, they're also struggling to find AMEs. And a lot of these programs are leaving from a lot of our colleges in Ontario. So we are trying to bring in apprentices for that and continue to build a pipeline so that they do stay with us. But that is definitely a dying trade that's probably very specific to aerospace. But we do, right from high school.
Yeah, we do as well. We always we'll send in one of our supervisors to the local high schools to basically introduce our company to different classes. We organize bus tours, feed them some pizza and tour them around. We do that with colleges as well as high schools. There's always a number. Our couple of our supervisors are going, okay, like, can you hire somebody that has gone through puberty? Like, we need somebody with, a little bit of, years of experience. So we do try to keep a balance. We're always looking for people with experience as well, but you can't just rely yourself on that. Like, you need to start from high school level.
This is a major value area that a military can bring to a country as well too. The military takes people off the street and trains them how to do highly skilled tasks, highly skilled trades, pilots, airplane mechanics, tank mechanics. I wish I could get more people coming out of the military to come work for me. I don't think I've hired one in at least 10 years because there just aren't that many, and the few that are coming out get scooped up really fast.
I think there's a reason. I don't think their retention rate is very high. So that might be why you're not finding them anymore. Just saying. The style with our generation might not be fitting.
Yeah, and again, we don't have a lot of ticketed we'll try and groom and train up people internally, and frankly, it offers a broader range. Like, a lot of people don't know what they want to do, or take a while to like figure it out. So I think that our stride's been like, we've got like on our CNC mills, we've got a husband and wife team that like. He plays in a rock band in the and they're like awesome, right? And I think that
the band, or
but like, I don't know, like, I think that some of this, it's tough, like, when, like, what's better, and we have the benefit of being a size that like you've got a lot of really experienced operators and technicians that can like handhold and guide the way and move through, because the Fort Erie International College, they're putting in programs for welding and machining, and I mean it's awesome. Like, I think it's really great, but it's like 4.5 months of hands-on experience, 80% hands-on, or if you go to college, but it's like we can largely replicate a lot of that just bringing people in, and when it's like a much wider age range that we would think nothing of if someone was in their early 60s and they wanted to come in and learn equipment and had like an interesting background. Like, it's so all over the place. I just think, like, I don't know, like, I've been around, we've had consultants that have been in their early to mid 70s and like the wisdom and the continuous learning, and then I've been around people that are in their late 20s and their minds are closed. And I think just like identifying, like, if you're willing to learn, and I think that like it's like at any time, it's like, I think businesses need to be open to business as well too. But like, we do have the benefit that we've got a lot of infrastructure and a lot of change, like a lot of people around to help onboard and bring those people, help those people up.
Any other questions? The sun has set. You will stay with us, and we thank you very much for that. If there's no other questions, I think we can wrap here. So thank you. Upstairs, so be in line back upstairs, and hope to see you out there. Thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it. Great job, Jordan. We're very glad for Jordan showing up our mark that we think of.